See, Daniel, Georgia gets a bad moniker because
Okay.
people either
I
say
hate that. I just hate that. I hate
you
it.
don't have enough talent,
Oh, okay.
or you have too much talent and you don't do enough with it.
There it is.
One of the
Problem.
two. What if I was to tell you that Kirby doesn't give two about you and your words, and he just says, I'll take the best out of anybody's yard at anybody's time, take it back to my house, and tag it as my own? That's exactly what he's doing with a lot of recruits and transfers. We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Georgia is adding more talent, and that's what we're talking about today. Today's episode brought to you by the fine folks over at FanDuel. We love them. We'll tell you more about them in a second. It's a bit of old news at this point. We didn't get a chance to get to it last week, but Laneith Whitehead coming home, Clint.
He's from
coming
Athens.
back, Athens Academy prospect.
Yes, sir.
And didn't get to Georgia the first time around, but we all make mistakes, and he's corrected those. He's seen the error of his ways. I personally believe in second chances. I believe people like this deserve second chances. He didn't commit a crime, but he did go to Tennessee, which is basically the same thing, but he's coming home now, coming back to Athens. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, go ahead and subscribe, follow us, and leave us a 5-star rating and review on those platforms. We really do appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube. And then if you don't mind, go subscribe to an audio channel as well. That would help the show out. Mm-hmm. It helps to get us through the off season. We appreciate you listening and being here every single day on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. He's Clint and I'm Daniel, by the way. I did not just realize that. I've known that for a little bit.
Long time.
It's good to see that we've dressed appropriately, red and black, as it should be. We're talking about more talent coming to Athens, particularly in the form of a Tennessee transfer running back. Now, not a ton of numbers put up at Tennessee. Has battled some various things throughout his career over there, but this is a guy that was pretty highly thought of coming out of Athens Academy. And some of the things that we've both seen from him on the field and things that we saw from him coming out of high school, pretty interesting, Clint. This prospect
should excite you. This is a one-time linebacker who's made into running back. Comes into Athens at a position that, depending on who you talk to, is either a position of need or a position of strength at Georgia, which is honestly quite interesting.
People should get together and discuss that. We will, in fact, tell you in segments 2 and 3 which one of those is true.
But Laneith Whitehead, he's a big bruiser, 6'2", 220. Impressed on a lot of his show. Had a couple of injury histories at Tennessee. Played on special teams as well, but recruited highly, anticipated. But this guy's a bruiser. He's a mauler. He's got some giddy up and go to him as well. But he is coming back home. He did announce on the day that Raiola announced his transfer. It was just a little bit afterwards, which is why I got buried in there. But Daniel, this is an SEC running back.
It is.
Who is physical and fast. Now, we could talk about the niche offenses of the world and Jugson over at Ole Miss and what he looks like, which, by the way, is electric. And you talk about Arkansas and how they've employed running backs in the past. But at the end of the day, if you can get a guy who fits into Kirby's system of milking a clock, or as we call it, the Kirby Death March, which I think Daniel is currently repping right now, $199, bonfire.com/the/199. Get that t-shirt. You got to be excited about this kid. He brings some interesting intangibles to any running back room in the SEC. Tennessee was certainly excited for him. They thought they were going to get a contributor right away, that he was going to be splitting carries a lot in the backfield. this coming year, is what all intents and purposes Tennessee fan and Tennessee beat writers have said, that he was in line for a good amount of carries.
And you think about, I mean, there's a lot to digest here. Number one, Tennessee's an offense where running backs get a lot of touches because everybody gets a lot of touches in Josh Heupel's offense because they run 1 million plays. So look at last year. We talked about it going into that game. Tennessee is not an air raid type of offense. They run the ball a lot. They run the ball effectively a lot, particularly on first down, particularly after a big play. And so for Lenith to be in line to be that guy in this upcoming season, and then to voluntarily decide I need to step away and I want to come to Athens where Dejon Edwards still alive and well.
Very.
Kendall Milton still doing just fine on his own.
Get to
Branson Robinson,
Ooh.
He's making everybody, if you watch the national championship game, and if you haven't watched it this week, I highly encourage you to go watch it this week. We still win by a significant margin, but you'll see something you've never seen before. Branson Robinson is maybe one of the most exciting prospects on this team.
Yes.
And then you've got guys like Andrew Paul. You've got, the other Robinson coming in, the freshman. And so there's a lot of backs on this team. And for Whitehead to decide he wants to come in, but the words used to describe him when he was coming out of high school, Clint, you hear phrases like blue collar,
okay,
powerhouse, strong leg drive, loves contact.
Okay.
You mentioned former linebacker. What if I hit you with state champion shot putter?
Now we have
in high school.
This is called a stew, I think.
That's called a stew going right there. Now we're talking about a powerful athlete,
yes,
who loves to run to contact and is not afraid to run somebody over, and also possesses a little athleticism to boot. I don't know where he is going to fall on this depth chart. We're going to talk about that in segments 2 and 3, but I tell you, it's good to have a guy like this in the fold for a lot of reasons, many of which we're going to get to. Exciting for Georgia to be able to get this guy.
But first, we'll let you about FanDuel.
FanDuel is the number one sports book of the Locked On Bulldogs podcast, of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is the sportsbook Clint uses. It's the sportsbook I use. It is the place that we go when we want to place bets, and the things that we want to place bets on include, but are not limited to, the NBA playoffs, which are in full swing right
Colin,
now.
how you doing, bro?
Baseball season, which is in full swing right now. And
Daniel, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, Clint. But you can also bet on college football futures. You can bet on Heisman futures. You can bet on championship futures. You can bet on SEC futures. You can bet on a lot of things over on FanDuel. And right now, new users to FanDuel get a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back, up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not cash. All you have to do is go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn to take advantage of this offer. That is FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Make every moment more with FanDuel.
Okay, let's now talk about projecting how Lenith fits within the system that we already have. You listed a bunch of guys. Dejon Edwards to us is one of the most fundamental pieces of offense for us because, again, he's a bell cow in the sense that you know how many yards he's going to get time and time again. The guy rarely takes loss. He always has the ability to make 15, 20-yard chunks, and he's going to workhorse his way all the way through. Kendall Milton is electric all the way through, keep healthy, which is going to play into this conversation. Branson Robinson might be the most talented running back on the team currently, Andrew Paul and the rest of them. So when you talk about Lenith coming in here, he clearly sees a place for him. Georgia coaches clearly see a place for him because, again, we are in the business of telling players if they don't have a position within this team, it is best interest for them to seek gainful playing time elsewhere. But that's the opposite here. So with a running back room that maybe in years past, we got Kenny Mack last year, we got DeAndre Swift, Zeus, the number of names keeps going and going, where you might think he is the clear bona fide guy in the backfield. We don't have that yet. We have a couple of upperclassmen, Kendall Milton, question mark of injury. Dajon Edwards, question mark of his range of ability at running back. Andrew Paul coming off an injury. Branson Robinson looks to be the part, but again, very, very, very limited segment of reps.
Sample size, yeah, it's very small.
Okay. So what does this do for the whole room in totality, Daniel?
Well, I mean, you start with the least interesting answer, but the most true answer, and Kirby's favorite answer, which is competition in the running back room is better than lack of competition in the running back room.
It's kind of his whole shtick, y'all.
And his shtick wins back-to-back national championships. So if you don't appreciate it, then I don't know what to tell you. Kirby Smart loves competition. Every position on this team is built around competition, and more talented running backs is better than less talented running backs. This is the end of the discussion about talented running backs and how many is good. Now, moving on to where he maybe fits on this roster, you mentioned injuries. I think that's the number one reason that a signing like this is huge, and the number one reason that people can't really decide, is this a position of strength on Georgia's team, as you mentioned, or is this a position of need? Well, on paper, Georgia's running back room is a position of strength.
Okay.
Because there's just dude after dude after dude in this room.
We listed 5 of them.
Yeah, and each one of them is potentially better than the last. You've got former 5-star uber talented Kendall Milton. You've got guy who's done nothing but exceed every expectation and do everything that's ever been asked of him, Dajon Edwards. You've got wonder kid, biceps for days, Branson Robinson, who just literally dragged 2 men into the end zone with him because he refused to not score a touchdown in that moment. And I need to replace a wall in my home. You've got so many talented guys, but injuries are a concern at running back. And they're a concern at running back more so, I think, than any other position.
Let me ask you this right now, Daniel.
Yeah.
Today,
okay,
I make you tell me, put everything on the line, and I say you have to tell me what running backs currently are 100% in UGA's running back room.
100% healthy?
100% healthy. Based on what you know and have seen, how many are you putting on that list?
Clark? I put Clark, unless he actually, by the way, it seems like he transferred back. He's back. So, he was in the portal. No, he's in the portal, but now he's back on campus.
Okay, great.
And so Savinol, I can't remember his first name.
Yes.
Clark, he's back on campus. He's fully healthy and he's good to go. He's ready to go. He's ready to run. He'll run for days if you need
keep the list going though, Daniel. No, like I'm giving you the floor. You can go ahead and state who's 100% healthy today that you'd be willing to bet all of your house.
I did that already.
Okay. So this is the point.
Yeah.
Kendall Milton, we heard very early on in camp, he was shut down. We didn't see him at all. Dajon Edwards, who knows? Branson Robinson, we didn't get a full look at as well. Andrew Paul coming off ACL.
Coming off the injury, still not back.
So
the freshman, I put Broderick Robinson,
you can put
the freshman.
Yeah, you can put
that's
Broderick.
fine. But to your point, when was the last time a Georgia running back didn't miss any playing time due to injury in a season?
Oh, no.
So I'm not saying it hasn't ever happened, but think about the rarity of a running back going a full season healthy. Now,
it doesn't happen.
It just doesn't. It just flipping doesn't happen. And so you want to be deep at this position. You want to be 4 or 5 deep. Now, Georgia has always had this 2 to 3 headed monster at running back, and that has served us very well. But the guys behind that 2 to 3 headed monster were really important on that roster. Critical for the team, not just to get through practice and to get through the rigors of a 15-game schedule, but to be there as insurance and people that could be relied on and counted on in the third and fourth quarter of these games. And if injuries were to become a thing, Georgia, this is needed depth for Georgia at the tailback position.
We're going to come back after this, talk about more implications with the 199. Stick around. Loyal third segment listeners want to do that right after this. Okay. Still putting a declaration out. By the way, Ben Dukes, reach out to your boys. Okay.
Ben Dukes out there on that picket line. He can't be bothered.
That's actually a good point.
He
Ben,
out there.
You keep doing your work, man. You keep doing your work. We're all Locked On Bulldogs official stance is we are behind Ben Dukes. 100%.
We support Ben Dukes. Not universally. He's not earned that kind of trust yet.
Oh, that's
but
actually
in
true.
this particular instance, we support Ben Dukes.
Yes, that is true. Okay, we talked about the injury. We talked about some needed depth and competition within the running back room. Again, Kirby's shtick. It's what he does. He brings guys in. He doesn't overpromise anything. Again, by the way, when was the last time you, 199, glad you're here.
199, glad you're here. If you're a dad, go check out the Dad Pod.
Dad Pod guys.
YouTube.com/@the-dad-pod guys. The little @ the Dad Pod guys. That's youtube.com/@the-dad-pod guys. You go find the show over there.
You just exposed that you are an old man dad by Yep, that's there it is.
It's one of these.
Yep, okay. So we talked about the depth, we talked about some names and competition, and I was going to ask, by the way, when was the last time you heard the Kirby overpromised this recruit? Kirby promised this guy he was going to start.
Kirby out here selling a bill of goods.
And he just selling these kids on anything. When was the last time you heard that? Because no one can say that again. Stetson Bennett did so much good, so much healing to the world. In which
he did.
Kirby said, I don't care.
Congratulations to the fine city of LA, by the way, for winning 3 Super Bowls and having a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Y'all see his throws in camp? Y'all see those?
If Stetson Bennett does not start a single game for the Los Angeles Rams, I will get on this podcast and make a formal apology to every Alabama fan that has ever come through the comment section. One by one, I'll read their names.
Okay, wow.
Listen, Stetson Bennett is not going to be a bench warmer in the NFL for his career.
By the way, that might be the most listened to podcast in our history because all them Alabama fans.
I'm going to put it all over the title. It's just going to be Georgia fan apologizes to Alabama fan commenters, and it's going to be
running in. Okay, so we talked about the injury, we talked about the depth, we talked about what it does. Let's just talk about how this can't hurt Georgia. This is, I think, what's often missed. People honestly will say all the time, well, what is this adding? But I think what's mistaken a lot, or what's forgotten, is how this can't hurt. And Kirby's done this time and time again with players. You throw a guy in the mix. He's willing to take risk. He's willing to try different things. He's willing to bring in Todd Monken. He's willing to give an old curmudgeon guy.
Todd Monken failed offensive coordinator, by the way.
Got fired.
Really no pedigree to speak of.
Got fired from Tampa Bay.
Man was fired. Couldn't keep a job. Couldn't hold down a job.
Okay. Brings back Mike Bobo.
His former college roommate. Just nepotism for days.
I think you misunderstand what nepotism is, people. If that's nepotism to you.
Hiring the best candidate for the job because the best candidates for the job want to work at your job, that's not nepotism. That's just called being really lucky and good. Having a good life. I think is what that's called.
And we have the best life. I think what needs to be understood is when we bring a guy in from Tennessee, it can't hurt things. And this is the place where people want to come, all from the SEC, all from the country, all the people who say Kirby can't keep players in. Look at the reason why players leave. Georgia. And then look at the reason why players come in to Georgia. It's very important. It's very crucial. And this isn't like this isn't me grabbing something out of thin air. This is them in their own words. Either I have a kid in Texas, like, go do you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Or because Ohio State promised me $5 million. Okay, great.
Sure. That
It
sounds
didn't win you a
fine.
national championship, and Ohio State's out $5 million, and they lost to Michigan all the time. So, okay, cool.
It's great.
But you see the players coming in, and what this does is it shows me again, Kirby is willing to get that competitive mix going, get different guys in, willing to take risks on the right type of players. And again, it goes back to that C word that we use all the time, culture. If players are leaving, it's because they don't fit a culture. And if players are coming in, it's because they do fit a culture.
And you can say that we're just making that up all you want.
Sure.
But then you would have to explain what's happened the last 30 games of college football that Georgia's played in.
And you'd have to explain why a GM of a team whose job it is to win Super Bowls and keep his job that he really, really appreciates. One of the best jobs in America.
He got a big house.
That mortgage is more than
It ain't paying
know.
itself.
Okay. And he just says, I'm just
I
gonna
didn't want to like him. I was watching tape on Darnell Washington. But then I said, why wouldn't I draft this guy?
See, it matters. It's a thing that other people are catching on to, and other people are saying more drafted players. So if you want, again, if you're a recruit, if you're a kid, why wouldn't I? Don't blame you for choosing erroneously somewhere else, but coming back to Georgia because you're doing a analysis of observation. You're being scientific.
Yeah, I'd say that, well, I want my dreams to come true, and Georgia's a place where more people's dreams come true than any other place. So
let's go
it's
there.
Just facts. These are the facts. We don't make them up. We just cheer for the team that wins the national championships. This is the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. He is Clint. I am Daniel. We will be back later this week. We've got lots more to discuss about your favorite team, and we will see you guys then.